Now we are going to start Pot of Gold episode 5, module 5, Plotters is Pot of Gold, episode 5 for NIOS, CU and other universities. We'll discuss about the Greek and Platon element in the plot of gold. Titus Mastius Plotters 254-184 BC composed over 100 comedies in Latin, adapting them from Greek originals. The play on which he based his Aulularia, the pot of gold, has not survived. Molière's 17th century El Avare, the miser, is the most famous of the later comedies inspired by Aulularia. Like all classical drama, the aularia is written in verse, and certain sections are meant to be sung by the actors. We have set 5 of these lyrical little passages to music. In ancient times, accompaniment would have been provided by an aulus, a double reed instrument similar to an oboe. Although the characters in the aularia speak Latin. Nearly everything else about them is Greek. They have Greek names, Greek clothing, and Greek customs. The action takes place on a residential street in Athens. All of Plautus' actors were men or boys, and they wore masks. The Aurelia would have been performed without intermission, as we too perform it. Now, if we start from the beginning of now, if we start from the beginning of the prologue, the Lar, guardian god of the household, tells the audience about Euclio, Euclio, also Euclio, a poor, stingy man who lives alone except for an old housekeeper named Staphila and Euclio's daughter, Phadria, nicknamed Aula, Pot. Euclio has no idea about Phadria is pregnant and about to give birth. He has just discovered a pot filled with gold and is frantic that someone may steal it from him. The Lord assures us that the pot of gold will eventually enable Phadria to marry Lysonidas, the young man who loves her and has fathered their baby. Scenes 1 to 2. Euclio drives Typhila out of the house, suspecting that she is after his pot of gold, when in fact no one except Euclio even knows that it exists. He then leaves for the marketplace, where there is to be a free handout. Scenes 3 to 5. Eunomia has come to visit her bachelor brother, Megadorus, Euclio's rich neighbor. She advises him to get a wife. Reluctant at first, he soon relents and decides to ask Euclio for the daughter's hand in marriage, not knowing that she is pregnant. As Eunomius departs, Euclio shows up and is persuaded to accept Megadorus's proposal. Megadorus volunteers to pay for 2 wedding feasts, one in his house and one in Euclio's. He takes his slave, Strobilus, with him to the marketplace to help him hire cooks and buy food. Euclid, after giving directions to Stifler, leaves to go shopping himself. Scene 6 to 15. Strobilius leads back from the market 4 silly cooks. After lamenting their bad reputation as cooks, the cooks enter Euclius and Megadorus' house. Euclid, returning to find his home filled with commotion, chases everyone out, sure that his gold has been stolen. Finding it still safe, he lets the cooks continue with their work while he carries the pot under him under his cloak. Scene 16 to 18. Megadorus comes on the stage, reflecting on the wisdom of marrying a poor girl with no dowry. Euclid, overhearing the song, is pleased with its sentiments but still suspect Megadorus of wanting to marry his daughter only to get at his goal. Megadorus leaves to prepare for the wedding as Euclid goes into the shrine of Pipes. Trust or faith, F-I-D-E-S, Pipes. Trust or faith to hide his pot there. Lysonidas' slave Pythidius now appears, having been sent by his master to any one to spy out the situation. He boasts about his perfect behavior. Scenes 19 to 23, Euclid talking to himself about this goat as he leaves the shrine is overheard by Pythodicus. As soon as Euclid enters his house, the slave rushes into the shrine to steal the pot. At that moment, the sound of a bleating sheep sends Euclid running back into the shrine to check on the goat. Finding Pythodicus there, he drives him out and interrogates him, finally letting him go when he sees that the slave is empty handed. He decides to hide the pot in a remote grove as he exits. He is followed secretly by Pythodicus. Scenes 24 to 28, Lysonidas and his mother Eunomia arrive at Megadorus' house. Eunomia, having learned the truth from her son, goes inside with Lysonidas to convince the brother to abandon his wedding plans. Pythidius joyfully runs by with the pot he has pilfered. After him comes Euclid, bemoaning the loss of his gold. Lysonidas now confesses to Euclid and reports that Phadria has had a baby. As Euclid races inside the house to confirm this, Pythodicus returns, having hidden the pot in his master's house. He brags to Lysonidas about the theft, asks whether he can buy his freedom with the stolen gold. Outraged, Lysonidas orders him to give the pot back to Euclid. At this point, the text breaks off. In our production, the Lord will deliver an epilogue reconstructing the lost ending of the play, and everyone will, of course, live happily ever after. It is important to recognize the way in which plotters in this comedy is using stock characters from ancient Greek comedy in his presentation of this immensely funny play. This is evidenced in the rather stereotypical stock character of the miser. Euclid, who was the audience, laughs at because of the extent of his avarice. Megadorus is likewise another stock character, a much older bachelor who hopes to marry a much younger, beautiful girl. Also, a common theme of such comedies at the time was the role of servants, showing themselves to be more intelligent than the people they serve, and this is certainly something that this play demonstrates. However, at the same time, as much as Plautus was a playwright writing this play in its historical context and reflecting the main themes and ideas of literature at the time, it is also possible to see that he did choose to differ in his plot and character in some important ways. In this play, for example, Euclid, although he is so obsessed with the goal that when Lysonidas confesses to him that he has already slept with his daughter, only chooses to hear about his gold, showing a lack of sensitivity towards his daughter. That is chilling. Oh, my life is wrecked, wrecked. The way calamities swarm down and settle on me, one after another. Go in, I will, and have the truth of it. However, in spite of this, Plautus does allow him to experience a change of heart, and in the fragment of this play that has been lost, we know that Euclid gives the money to Lysonidas and his daughter and learns the error of his ways, seeing that he is better off without the pot of gold that distorted his vision so greatly in the play. The context of this play is therefore the tropes and themes of literature that plotters followed, but also altered in certain ways. A study of plotting plays shows that in all the plays available to us, there was there are 154 male characters, but only 54 female characters. In fact, three of his plays don't have any female characters. Captivi, Pseudolos, Antarinimus, Trinimus. Whatever way you pronounce the proper names of these old plays does not matter. What matters is that whether you are pronouncing them to an extent that is expected for you to pronounce. Now, whatever may be, of course, the major reason for this is the non-availability of female actors. The female roles are performed by men, and it is easier to drag the woman minor, non-speaking parts. The Greeks did not have major roles for women in their plays, and since Plautus's plays were fashioned from them, he too chose to follow the same convention. Further, it can be argued that the bias Plautus shows against women is one that is a reflection of his society. In Athenian and Roman society, women were not expected to be seen in public. Their work was to take care of the household and stay within the confines of their homes. Thus, the plays do not have many women characters on the stage, and those that do come on stage belong to the lower classes. And Ryer argues that Plautus female characters fall into five stereotypical categories: the Pula, the Matrona, the Meretrix, the Ancilla, and the Annas. Pula is the young maiden who the young hero may want to seduce. The Matrona is a married woman, the Meretrix, the courtesan, the Ancilla, the handmaid, and the Annas, the old woman. In the pot of gold, the three women characters. So we see that in the pot of woman, the three woman characters all fit in a category. Staphila is an Annas or old woman. The sister is the Matrona, and Phaedria is the Pula. Staphila, despite Euclid's poor treatment of her, Staphila is a faithful servant to him. And Phaedria, she is a unidimensional character whose only role is that of an elderly slave. She plays an important role in the society development since she informs the audience of Phaedria's pregnant condition. Her exchanges with Euclid provide comedy and also affirm lore. Familiar is his description of Euclid's nature. Her speeches throw light on the Euclid's character as a miserly wretch. Her speech puts Euclid in place when she says that the house is so dirty that Dame Fortune would never set foot in it. She's an old woman, and even though she has served as Euclid's housekeeper for a long time, he does not trust her and treats her unkindly. Her presence in the play may not contribute to the action, yet her character serves to highlight the theme of the play, the futility of greed. Staphyla is sympathetic to Phaedria's condition and wants to protect her from societal ostracism. Eunomia is a amatrona, and a conversation with Megadoras presents a very stereotypical picture of woman. For instance, she says, women often talk too much. She appears twice on the stage in the course of the play. As Megadora's sister, she shows a concern that he is not married yet and suggests a middle-aged woman for him. It is to Eunomia that Megadora reveals that he wishes to marry Phaedria. In a second appearance, Eunomia tries to dissuade her brother from his decision as she wants her son to marry Phaedria. As with all of Plautus's Matronas, Eunomia too is an unsympathetic figure. However, since her role as mother and sister is the one highlighted in the play, she does not appear sheepish and cunning like most Matronas. Phaedria is Aquila. She is the subject of the young hero's affection, and it is her marriage which will signal the happy ending of all that has happened. All the actors in the Protestant time were men, and so interestingly, Phaedria never makes an appearance on the stage, even though we hear her screams during her labor. She is mentioned by other characters. Lord Familiaris speaks of her devotion to him. He also apprises the audience of a seduction by Lysonidas. Phaedria's future has been decided by his father in absence. First, he decided to marry her to Megadorus, and later, at Megadorus's behest and at the return of his gold to Lysonidas. Since she cannot make any contribution to the action of the play, she doesn't appear on the stage at all. She is completely under her father's control. Her name does appear in the list of characters, so it is possible that she may have appeared at the end of the play. The role of the lar familiaris. Lar familiaris is the household god of Eucleo's house. While the miserly Eucleo does not worship lar familiaris, his daughter Phaedria performs the necessary ceremonies to appease the resident spirit of the house. He is the first character to come out to the stage. Since he is a god, he is not visible to the characters of the play. La Familiaris presents the prologue of the play, which sets the stage for the action that follows. It is by La Familiaris is that the audience is informed that Eucleo's grandfather, being a great miser, had buried a pot of gold in the central hall of this house. This wealth had remained undiscovered until then. La Familiaris, in his pity for Eucleo's impoverished condition and the appreciation of Phaedria's devotion, guided Eucleo to the treasure. As the household deity, Lord Familiaris seems to influence action as he announces in his prologue. He influences Megadorus to wish to marry Phaedria. Megadorus was not married earlier, so his sudden interest in marrying Phaedria has a simple explanation here. Lord Familiaris also tells the audience in the prologue that Phaedria has been seduced by Lysonidas, Megadorus' nephew, and she is now expecting their child. The play is set in Athens, but illustrates the role of women in Roman society, just as well indeed in all of his comedies. Plautus avails himself a number of stock female characters, familiar to patrons of Roman theatre, two of which he uses here. The unseen Phaedria is a Pura, a young, beautiful woman who is not only the object of both Lysonidas and Megadorus' romantic affection, but also a key element in the wily machinations of Lysonidas' crafty slave, another stock character in the Roman comedy. Immediately after, we can see that Phaedria represents the generally submissive role of Roman and Greek and also Roman society. She is little more than an object, not just a sex object, but a piece of property belonging to a father which can be alienated entirely at his behest. Phaedria has no voice in the play, but we do hear her screams of pain of stage when she gives her birth. Her gender role in society is reinforced by the action. Women should neither be seen nor heard when important marital transactions are taking place and should confine themselves to being mothers, their most important duty to the state. Stephaila is an ancilla or handmaid. Her role in the comedy is much the same as Lysonidas' slave, that of intelligent servant. Plautus uses this stock character to provide a sort of commentary on the play, much like a Greek chorus, and also to act as a foil to the absurdity and stupidity of the essential characters. For instance, it is Staphyla who informs the audience of Phaedrius' pregnancy. Staphyla is shown to be bright, witty, and compassionate. She is certainly a good deal more intelligent than a fine, miserly master, Euclid. Despite this, her role in the comedy is somewhat limited, reflecting her position in Roman and Greek society. So she can enter the world of men and enrich it with her presence, but she cannot fully live there on equal terms. Ultimately, her wit and intelligence are as much of an adornment as Fabria's beauty. Plautus' style, filled with folktale and jokes, became role of model to many other writers because of many works were written in his tone. He is considered to have written over 130 comedies, while some believe that he only wrote 21 that are completely his. The most popular ones are Aulularia or the Pot of Gold and Menashe Me. In his works, he showed everyday city life scenes, but he introduced rough comedic music parts and elements of burlesque into the Greek comedy. The plotter's comedy is recognizable by the clever servant who has most important role in twisted the plot. Plautus is considered to be one of the most skilled descriptors of human characteristics that are worthy of being laughed at. So, if you give a character sketch of Euclid, Euclid is above all a character defined by his greed and avaricious nature. It is clear that from the very opening scene, when he beats Staphyla, the old slave who is very loyal to him, that his greed is possessing him, and above all, the pot of gold that he is so delighted about having is beginning to own him rather than the rather way around. Note, for example, what he says in an aside whilst beating Stephyla. Oh, but how horrible scared I am. I am, she will come. Come, some slice dodge on me. When I am not expecting it, and smell out the place where the gold is hidden. She has eyes in the very back of her head, the hairy cat. Now I'll just go see if the gold is where I dare hid it. Dear, it worries the life out of me. So, in particular, the last phrase, it worries the life out of me, could be used to show the major theme of this play, the dangers of greed, and the way that possession of wealth does not necessarily come as a blessing to its recipients. Euclid's greed is shown to affect every single part of his thought. As when Megadorus generously proposed marriage to his daughter, he automatically suspects that Megadorus must have found out about his wealth and wants to marry his daughter in order to get it. Even when he has agreed to the marriage and he finds his house full of people getting ready for the wedding, he's so obsessed with his gold that he automatically assumes they are looking for his hidden pot of gold. Euclid is therefore a sadly comic character who takes his love of the pot of gold to extreme lengths, showing the negatives of greed. The work focuses on the way that wealth may not be quite the blessing that humans assume it is. This is some through the central symbol of the pot of gold, which Euclid rediscovers thanks to his daughter's piety. The obsession that he forms concerning this pot of gold prevents him from being able to trust other characters and to accept the generosity that they offer. For example, when Megadorus, a wealthy man in own right, offers to marry Euclid's daughter without a doubt and even says he will pay for the cost of the feast and ceremony, Euclid's immediate reaction is to support him of wanting to gain the pot of gold that he's so concerned about keeping away from everybody. When he agrees to give, he wants to grab, mouth wide open to gobble down my gold, holds up a bit of the bread in one hand and a stone in the other. I don't trust one of these rich fellows when he is so monstrous civil to a poor man. They give you a cordial handshake and squeeze something out of you at the same time. I know all about those octopuses that touch a thing and then stick. The irony of this quote is, of course, that Euclid, for all of his attempt to describe himself as a poor man, is actually a perfect example of kind of greed and that he himself deploys in Megadorus. The overwhelming thing of the work, therefore, is to point out the danger inherent in owning wealth and the way that it can destroy you. It is highly significant that Yuki only gains a measure of happiness once he gives the pot of gold to his daughter and now son in law at the end of the play. A pot of gold is shown to be more of a curse than a blessing through the impact that it has on Euclid. Euclid, as the old miser, is a typical stock character. He uses as a protagonist. Plautus presents him in a genial light. Even though he acts greedily, Plautus redeems him in the end when he learns a lesson and appears to be just a good-hearted person who had been misguided by greed. His first reaction to Megadorus' marriage proposal for his daughter is a suspicion that he may be after his gold. Yet, being the miser he is, he gladly agrees when Megadorus not only does not does not demand any dowry, but even offers to pay for the entire wedding. A relief in white marble that shows men seated with the mask of new comedy. These masks are said to be youth, false maiden, and old man. Where is the role of the slaves in the plot of gold by plotters? So significance of cooks and slaves in the pot of gold is also important for us to study because that is also important for the exam. Slaves in the plotters is the pot of gold called Aulularia in Latin are far smarter than their masters and often carry out tasks that the masters are not savvy enough to accomplish. For example, Stephaila, a slave, a savior and more intelligent Eupio. At the beginning of the play, she wonders why her master has become so erratic in his behavior and she worries, nor can I tell how best I can conceive his daughter's state. Staphyla knows that Leopia's daughter Fadria is pregnant, and Staphyla cares for Fadria when her father is not aware of his daughter's condition. Another slave, Straubilas, who belongs to Lysonidas, outwits Euclid, a miser who jealously guards his pot of gold. Straubilas knows that he must do the work for his master, who wants to marry Fadria, and who has made her pregnant. Strobler's act says in Act 4, Scene 1, the slave who wants to serve a master well does first his master's work and then his own. Strobelus, here you're speaking about where he has hidden the gold, and then Strobelus steals the gold. His efforts, however, Lysonidas to return the gold to Euclid and to marry Fadria. So it is Strobylus who manages to get his master what Lysonidas wants. Slaves could buy their freedom. Some slaves took up small time jobs like selling wares or offering services for free. This would allow them to have money of their own, with which they could eventually buy their freedom. The third typical stock character Plautus uses in the play is the intelligent servant. Staphyla is Euclid's maid, yet is shown to be far more compassionate and sensible than he is. Through the action of the play, she shows a concern for Euclid's increasingly strange behavior and for Fabia's pregnancy. Lysanidas, a slave too, is a clever character who is able to steal Euclid's gold despite all his precaution. The slave is a comic figure. He is a stock character, the intelligent servant who gets the better of his masters. His soliloquy on the stage as he waits for Lysanidas reveals to the audience what he thinks of himself. He enumerates his ways in which he has made himself useful to his master. Lysanidas is the youth Phadria who wants to marry as she is expecting his child, along with the other minor characters like the steward and the cooks. The slave's speeches provide the audience with a lot of amusement. Lysanidas, a slave, plays a significant role in the development of the plot. He overhears Euclid speaking aloud about the location of his treasure and steals it, leading to Euclid's total breakdown. This incident is instrumental in Lysanidas winning with Euclid's favor when he manages to retrieve Euclid's gold and return it to him through Megadorus. This makes Euclid readily accepts him as a fabulous suitor. C. Stace opines that the slave's character is the key to understanding Plautan originality. Plautus was known to have adapted Greek plays, yet it is in his character that he shows his originality when he brings in nuances which were not present in the original. Stace speaks of the different kinds of slaves that Plautus employs characters in the play. So we can see that there are 8 instances of Servus Calidus, Servus Callidus, or the interviewing slave in the pot of gold. Plautus, his plays Trobelius, however, fails in the category of the faithful slave who helps his master. Scenes 6 to 15, Strobelius leads back from the market 4 silly cooks after lamenting and bad reputation As Crook's song 2, the cook enters Oclear's and Megadorus's house. Euclio, returning to find his home filled with commotion, charges everyone out, sure that his gold has been stolen. Finding it still safe, he lets the cooks continue with their work while he carries the pot with him under the cloak. In scene 6:15, Strawbinus leads back from the market four silly cooks. After lamenting their bad reputation as crooks, song 2, the cooks enter Euclio and Megadorus's house. Euclio, returning to find his home filled with commotion, chases everyone out, sure that his gold has been stolen. Finding it all safe, he lets the cook continue with their work while he carries the pot under him, under his cloak.